You ever notice how some smells just tell a story? You walk into a wood shop, it's cedar and nostalgia, but you get close to a diesel teardown, and it's that heavy sovereign scent of kerosene and hard work. It's the smell of things that don't quit.
It's also the smell of a shirt I'm going to have to burn if I lean too close to that block, Tiger. Seriously, I've seen you build furniture that could survive a hurricane, but this is a different breed of beast. Why are we talking about compression ignition today instead of, say, joinery?
Because Alex, the diesel engine, is the unsung hero of the maker world. It's the prime mover. Whether it's the generator keeping the lights on in a remote cabin, or the tractor clearing the lot for a new shop, understanding these things is like learning the secret language of the industrial world. Plus, I once tried to fix a clogged fuel injector with a sewing needle and a lot of misplaced confidence.
Oh, here we go. Did you end up with a high-pressure piercing?
Not quite, but I did learn that 5,000 psi of fuel doesn't care about your feelings or your DIY spirit. It'll find a way to make you regret your life choices. But honestly, looking at these DOE handbooks and the West Virginia mining specs, it's fascinating how much history is packed into these iron lungs.
I was reading through that history section you pointed out. Rudolf Diesel. The man was ambitious. He actually tried to run his first engine on coal dust. That sounds like a recipe for a very short, very loud career.
Well, he was a German engineer in the 1890s. They weren't exactly known for doing things the easy way. He wanted a rational heat engine. Coal dust was plentiful, but as it turns out, shoving powdered rock into a cylinder isn't great for the longevity of the moving parts. He eventually moved to lamp petroleum, which we basically know as kerosene or early diesel fuel. The core idea, though, was the real magic: ignition without a spark.
That's the part that always trips up the casual observer. No spark plugs. In a world of gas weed whackers and cars, the idea of just squeeze the air until it's hot enough to explode sounds, well, violent.
It is. It's controlled violence in a heavy jacket. In a gas engine, you're mixing air and fuel and then flicking a match at it. In a diesel, you're taking a big gulp of air, just air, and smashing it down until it's screaming hot. We're talking 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit just from the pressure. Then, at the very last second, you missed a little fuel into that furnace, and boom! It's like throwing a splash of water onto a red-hot skillet, except the steam is fire, and it's pushing a piston.
Okay, so let's get into the anatomy. You've got the block, the pistons, the crankshaft, the usual suspects. But when I look at this manual, the compression ratio stands out. Dig into that for me. Why is a diesel so much beefier than my car engine?
It's all in the squeeze. Your standard gas engine has a compression ratio of maybe 8-to-1 or 10-to-1. A diesel, you're looking at 14-to-1 all the way up to 24-to-1. Imagine taking a room full of air and cramming it into a shoebox. Because the pressures are so much higher, everything has to be overbuilt. The cylinder walls are thicker, the connecting rods look like bridge girders, and the crankshaft, man, a diesel crank feels like it was forged in the heart of a dying star. It's heavy because it has to be. If you built a diesel engine out of the same lightweight alloy as a lawnmower, the first time it fired, it basically turned into confetti.
Confetti is a very expensive way to describe an engine failure. So we have two-stroke and four-stroke diesels. I'm used to two-strokes being the smoky things on the back of a boat. Is it the same here?
Similar but different. A four-stroke is the classic. Intake, compression, power, exhaust. It's the suck, squeeze, bang, blow rhythm we all know. But a two-stroke diesel, like those old Detroit diesels, it does the whole dance in just two movements. It uses scavenging. While the piston is coming down on the power stroke, it opens up ports to let new air in and push the old smoke out at the same time.
Wait, so if the intake and exhaust are happening at the same time, doesn't that get messy? How do you keep the fresh air from just flying out the tailpipe?
That's where the blower comes in. On those two strokes, you've usually got a supercharger, a blower, bolted to the side. Its only job is to shove air into the cylinder with enough force to clear out the old gases. It's like using a leaf blower to clear out a dusty garage while someone is trying to shut the door.
It sounds incredibly loud.
Oh, it's a symphony of screaming metal. There's a reason they called them Screamin' Jimmies. You don't just hear a two-stroke diesel, you feel it in your teeth, but they're reliable because they're simple. Fewer moving valves and some designs.
Let's talk about the heart of the matter, the fuel system. This isn't just a pump and a hose, is it?
No, this is the watchmaker's part of the engine. The fuel injector is doing a miracle every second. It has to take fuel and turn it into a mist so fine it's practically a vapor, and it has to do it against that massive pressure inside the cylinder. If the injector is peeing, which is the technical term for when it drips instead of mists, You get black smoke, lost power, and eventually you can actually melt a hole right through the top of your piston.
Wait, peeing? Is that really the technical term?
Well, it's what the old timers say. You want a cone of spray. If you get a stream, you're in trouble. It's like the difference between a high-end perfume atomizer and a leaky garden hose. One gives you a nice scent, the other just ruins your shoes.
I noticed in the West Virginia mining manual that they are obsessed with governors. I thought a governor was just someone who signs bills. What's it doing on a diesel?
In the diesel world, the governor is the only thing keeping the engine from committing suicide. See, a gas engine is throttled by air. You close the butterfly valve to slow it down. But a diesel, it has an unlimited supply of air. It's fuel throttled. If you just kept dumping fuel in, the engine would keep spinning faster and faster until the centrifugal force literally pulled the reciprocating parts through the side of the block.
That sounds like a horror movie for mechanics.
It's called a runaway. I saw it once on an old farm tractor. The governor linkage snapped, and that engine started screaming. The only way to stop it is to cut off the air or the fuel. The guy I was with, braver man than me, took his heavy work coat and stuffed it into the intake. It sucked that coat in like a spaghetti noodle, but it choked the engine out before it could throw a rod.
Note to self, always wear a heavy coat around Tiger's projects.
Good policy. But the governor, like that Woodward mechanical hydraulic one in the manual, it uses flyweights. As the engine spins faster, the weights fly out, and through a series of little levers and valves, it pulls back the fuel rack. It's a beautiful mechanical feedback loop. It's the engine's way of saying, whoa there, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Let's get into the shop talk part of this. Maintenance. The West Virginia specs mentioned a 200-hour service. To me, 200 hours doesn't sound like much. I spend more time than that trying to find my car keys in a month.
In an industrial setting, 200 hours is an eternity of hard labor. Think about it. That engine is running at a constant load. It's not like driving to the grocery store. It's like running a marathon while carrying a sofa. The biggest enemy of a diesel isn't work, it's neglect.
So, what are we looking for in a service? It's not just an oil change, right?
It's the holy trinity of diesel health: clean air, clean fuel, and cool water. First, the air. Diesel engines eat an incredible volume of air. If that filter gets clogged, the engine starts searching for air, the fuel-to-air ratio goes haywire, and you start seeing that thick, acrid black smoke. It's the engine's way of wheezing. Second, fuel. Diesel fuel is, well, it's a bit of a sponge for water. If water gets into those high-pressure injectors, it's game over. Water doesn't compress, and it doesn't lubricate. It'll shatter a plunger in a heartbeat. That's why you see those water separators on the fuel lines. You have to drain those regularly, or, you're basically playing Russian roulette with your fuel pump.
And the third one, cool water?
Heat management. Because diesels run at such high compression, they generate a staggering amount of heat. If your cooling system fails, if a belt snaps or a radiator clogs, you don't just get a check engine light, you get thermal runaway. The metal expands so much the piston sees in the bores. It's like the engine just decides to become a solid block of iron again.
Looking at the common mistakes, you mentioned your sewing needle incident earlier. What's the biggest mistake people make when they're trying to help a diesel engine?
Thinking it's a gas engine. The classic one? Using starting fluid, ether, too much. People love to spray that stuff into the intake on a cold morning. But remember, a diesel reaches ignition temperature by compression. If you spray ether in there, it can ignite way too early while the piston is still coming up.
Let me guess, that's not good for the piston.
It's like hitting the top of the piston with a sledgehammer while it's trying to move upward. I've seen piston rings shattered into tiny bits because someone got a little too spray happy with the starting fluid. If a diesel won't start, it's usually telling you it doesn't have enough heat or it doesn't have enough fuel. Adding a chemical explosion to the mix is just a shortcut to the scrapyard.
So what do you do on a cold morning? I saw glow plugs mentioned in the manual.
Exactly. Glow plugs are like little light bulbs that live inside the combustion chamber. You turn the key, wait for the little wait to start light to go out, which is the plug getting red hot, and then you crank it. It's just enough of a thermal nudge to get the first fire going.
We've talked a lot about the grease and the metal, but what about the unseen stuff, the emissions? Those West Virginia mining charts were really specific about carbon monoxide and nitrogen dioxide.
That's the high stakes part of the job. In a mine, if an engine isn't tuned right, it's not just a bad day at the shop, it's a life-threatening situation. When a diesel isn't burning efficiently, it produces CO, which we know is a silent killer, but it also produces NO2. That stuff is nasty. It irritates the lungs, and in high concentrations, it looks like a reddish-brown haze.
And the particulate matter, the soot?
DPM, diesel particulate matter. It's basically tiny microscopic bits of unburnt carbon coated in nasty chemicals. Modern engines use DPFs, diesel particulate filters, to catch that stuff. Then, every once in a while, the engine does a regen cycle where it gets super hot and burns that soot into a tiny bit of ash. It's like a self-cleaning oven, but for your exhaust.
It sounds like the clean diesel we hear about is just an engine that's being very, very carefully managed by a computer.
Precisely. We've gone from Rudolph's coal dust belching beast to engines that have cleaner exhaust than the air in some cities. But the fundamentals, the bore, the stroke, the sheer force of compression, that hasn't changed.
So, if I'm a maker or a hobbyist and I find an old diesel generator at an estate sale or a surplus auction, what's the one thing I need to check before I even think about trying to start it?
Don't trust the previous owner. People tell you it ran when I parked it, but in diesel speak, that usually means it died and I was too tired to fix it. First, check the oil for milk. If it looks like chocolate milk, you've got coolant in the oil, which means a blown head gasket or a cracked block. Walk away. Second, hand crank it if you can. If you can't get it to budge with a big breaker bar on the crank pulley, the rings are rusted to the walls. But most importantly, check the fuel tank. Diesel doesn't spoil as fast as gas, but it can grow algae.
Algae in fuel?
Yep. There are microbes that live at the interface where water meets diesel. They eat the fuel and poop out a black slime that'll clog every filter in 5 minutes. If you open the tank and it smells like a swamp instead of a refinery, you've got a long weekend of cleaning ahead of you.
Refinery or swamp sounds like a terrible game show.
It really is. But there's a payoff, Alex. When you finally get all the air bled out of the lines and you hit that starter and you hear that first chuff chuff roar and that steady rhythmic clatter settles in, there's nothing like it. It's the sound of a machine that's ready to work for the next 50 years. It's honest.
I get it. It's the woodworking of the mechanical world. It's about precision, patience, and knowing exactly how much pressure a piece of material can take before it gives up the ghost.
You hit the nail on the head, or the piston on the crown.
Stop. No puns. You promised.
Fair enough. But seriously, the takeaway here is respect. Respect the pressures, protect the clearances, and for heaven's sake, keep your fuel clean. These engines are like elephants. They have long memories, and they never forget a lack of maintenance.
Wise words. I think I'm ready to go home and appreciate the fact that my car has spark plugs and I don't have to worry about algae in my tank.
For now. But just wait until the power goes out and you're looking at that old generator in the shed. You'll be glad we had this talk.
I'll bring the heavy coat just in case.